The following segment is sponsored by Martin, Harding, and Mazzotti.
All right, today we're talking something very topical in our legal system right now. There have been a lot of protests down at the state capitol in recent days about the use of cash bail. A lot of people think that the system favors the wealthy. It gives them, the folks with greater means, a greater chance of getting out on bail, while folks who don't have the means cannot necessarily get out on bail. You see the protesters right there. I think that's $1 million staircase. I just saw them with Senator Michael Gianaris there. So it's a big issue right now in Albany at the Capitol right now. And here to help us examine the issue is partner Rosemary Bogdan from the law firm of Martin, Harding, and Mazzotti. So Rosemary, thank you so much for being with us as always. Let's start with just the basic concept of bail for people who don't know. What is that basic concept?
Well, basically bail comes down to a promise that you're going to come back for your future court dates and for the trial. So essentially you should think of it as collateral to guarantee that the person charged is actually going to participate in the legal process and go through the legal proceedings and appear for the trial.
So the people who just saw on video are saying that it's unfair to those without means, that the wealthy, they can post bail, go home and sleep in their own beds, but often those without means have to stay in jail for an inordinate amount of time.
And with people with less means, obviously it can present a problem because they can't post bail. So, but let's just talk a little bit about how bail works. There's a bail hearing that takes place, and what the court looks at, and both the prosecution and the defense can argue about, is factors like the seriousness of the charge, the connection to the community, contacts maybe outside, which is a flight risk, and then also the available means of the defendant. So that is one of the factors, and that's how they've tried to make bail work in the past.
So is it fair to say that these protesters may have a point in some cases, and what kind of changes are being looked at to try to make the system fair for everyone? You always want things to be fair for everyone.
And the point that the advocates are making is that if you have no means, even if the court is setting the bail at a lesser amount because you have no means, if you have no means, you can't post bail, right? So what they're looking at and suggesting is changing the rules for speedy trial, which would mean that they would be held less period of time, and then also looking at alternatives to bail, such as wearing ankle bracelets, or having to check in more often between the time of the charges being rendered and when the trial. So those are the other alternatives they're looking at.
All right, it's good to hear you break it down because we see these protests taking place, and I'm not sure everyone understands the issue, so I think you did a good job of breaking it down for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rosemary. Rosemary Bogdan from Martin, Harding, and Mazzotti. We're going to send things over to Mr. Craig Adams again with that big weather maker coming in.